Well, a couple years ago, at the University of Arizona, Jack Dangerman received an honorary doctorate for his transformational work in GIS and landscape planning. And I'm not a landscape planner. I actually don't know very much about GIS at all. And but during that visit, we were walking. There's lots of receptions and ways of honoring this distinguished person. We were quite literally walking through the desert on our way to some picnic ground for a reception in the national park. And Jack was describing GeoDesign to me. And of course, as opposed to some of the other notable people here who were in on the ground floor of this, who understood what he was talking about, I didn't really. I said, well, that sounds really interesting, and it's something, but it stuck with me over the course of the years that have passed. This past year, the graduate program in planning returned to the College of Architecture and Landscape Architecture, and it's a long, sordid story about them where they were there and then they left, and for some reason they came back, and we still don't know why they left in the first place, but after 9/11, the university thought they should be doing something. So something was to move these people around, we still don't know. It would be, some academic forensics on that would be very interesting to know what happened. Well, this presents an interesting opportunity because on the way back, as they left, they were exactly the same size as the School of Landscape Architecture. When they came back, they were less than half the size, both in faculty and in student numbers. And in fact, they were down below accreditation standards, and so part of the negotiation of our new dean, Jan Cervelli, was to bring them back and sort of restaff this planning program. So it seemed to me that we have an opportunity to do something rather unique, to bring them back into a design college. They were mostly policy planners. They are policy planners. And so this gives us a tremendous opportunity. Well, the second thing I'd like to start with is, in my career, I've spent most of my scholarly time working on the way people learn. I'm interested in learning theory. I'm particularly interested in the way professional programs are designed. And that led me early on in my career to working with the Learning Center, and every university has one. And we happen to have a very good one at the University of Guelph in Canada, where I spent 27 years. And one of the things that happened is that as you go along, people say, it's quite a bit like what Carl was saying. People say, do this. Get a new curriculum. How many people have heard that? We're going to redesign the curriculum. Well, where's the information on how you actually design it? Where's the information on what you actually do? What do you do first, and what do you do second, and how does that work? And so I started looking at that. I looked at it in the course structures. I started looking at it holistically. And we turned it into a design problem. So what I'd like to do in the first half of this, and go through it fairly quickly, and it's going to have to go by pretty fast, is I'm going to show ways in which, if geodesign is a profession or a discipline, and no, Mike, not necessarily a department, or is it different than landscape planning as we know it? I'd really like to talk about it, because it's going to be one thing. In dealing with the planners, one thing I found out is someone said, kind of disparagingly, about all that, and some other colleagues that were planners. That person's a modeler, and I still don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. So I thought, well, gee, I think I'm kind of a modeler. I'm kind of doing some of this. So let me show you some things. Okay, so get right to it. If geodesign is a profession or a discipline, Irv Zuby early on said in an article back in the 1970s said, in one of the definitions of a profession is that it should be able to be taught. And if it can be taught, it should be taught then in a coordinated, coherent manner, in a curriculum. So a professional curriculum is really divided, any curriculum for that matter, is divided into two components, and the curriculum designers will cite this. This is the formal curriculum, which most of us are aware of. That's the coordinated set of courses or learning experience or modules and that. And the other part, as Bloom talks about, is the co-curriculum, or he calls it the latent curriculum, the sort of hidden curriculum. And those are the things that happen outside. And immediately we run into what is the difference between a residential student experience, learning experience, or what happens online in distance. And I don't have we can talk about that one for a long time. But the co-curriculum is made up of all of those other experiences. It could be study abroad, and you can see them listed there. It goes down to mentorship, alumni interactions, all those things that happen outside of the formal course structure. Well, I'm going to present to you then two ways of going about this. There's the fast way, and then there's the comprehensive way, or you might call it the slow way. And the slow way really does present an opportunity for faculty, students, staff, practitioners to get involved, because it's a long conversation, and I won't kid you. Okay, the first thing that you can do is you can take a series of learning objectives, and this is just a partial list. And you can say, here are the years of the curriculum, and we can then, down here at the bottom, on the bottom left, you can say, where is it that we're going to introduce, continue, emphasize, etc. And we can go through all of the learning objectives for the curriculum, for the student time in place. You can start to say, well, some of them get a little I, and this is where you can kind of get a little discrete. Some of them get big I's. That means we're just going to just introduce it, or here we're going to spend a great deal of effort, time, and course resources on that. Down in the co-curriculum, down here, are things that again, they're outside the normal curriculum, and there are things that happen as you move through the program. And I just picked a bunch. This list is probably about 2.5 times this list, but it's something that you can get through very quickly. You can do this in the matter of a couple weeks if you get everybody talking about it. Well, what you do then is, in phase 2, is you start to list out then by the courses where you want these learning objectives to appear in the syllabi. And so the syllabi then reflect that, and you put them all up on a wall, and you look at them, and you say, does this all agree with that? And to what level are we really talking about it? And that works very, very quickly. You can get, so if GeoDesign is a discipline or profession, and we could somehow agree what it is, if it, and some of the great discussions that we were having yesterday, if we can agree, we can start to put it through this model. Well, let's talk a little bit more about it being a little more complicated. Each profession has its own set of curriculum domains or realms. And this is something that we did when I was a visiting professor at San Luis Obispo. We spent an awful lot of time just discussing not only what was in the accreditation standards, but we went through and we tried to explain and devise much more richness to that. And this is the same thing there. Planning has those, architecture has them. All of the major accredited programs have these curriculum domains or realms.